When you first open the program, you'll see a Getting Started wizard. This will allow you to make certain selections, including setting up your own preferences. Let's say you want to see what results have recently come out. You'd simply click on that appropriate button. You might also want to go to one of the drop-down menus to see what results are due in the week ahead. This is normally a good way to get started. You'll decide to select a share from the list and double-click on it to see its graph. We can also add various details on it, such as moving averages, so you get an analysis of the share. You may set up your own preferences for these moving averages. Some investors like 14 and 21-day moving averages, and some prefer longer terms like 50 days, 80 days, or 100 days. You make your own selection. You might also want to overlay the chart with some fundamental information, such as the price-earnings ratio, and compare the graph against maybe the final year result earnings. And this should give a good picture in terms of whether the company has adjusted when the earnings were released. We can see from this graph that the share hasn't adjusted. There are many other indicators that you can select from. Perhaps you want to see the volume that Remgo traded over the last few days, or you might want to put in some stochastic information, which is basically looking at the current position of the share in relation to its highest and lowest point over a period of time. You can select your own parameters for that. Let's do a new analysis as another example. We'll take dimension data, and if we look at the chart properties, you might also want to add some fundamental analysis like the PE ratio. And let's also show when the final results were released. This merger of fundamental and technical information is what makes ShareMagic so powerful. So if the graph were to show, as it is there, that the PE ratio is under the trading line of dimension data, clearly it's oversold. Let's also add some MACD, moving average convergence divergence information. Good information to show if a share is oversold, and in this particular case we can see dimension data is clearly oversold. Let's now also see if directors have been buying the share. Perhaps let's look at Remgo rather. See nothing in the last 3 months. Let's maybe look in the last year and see if directors have been buying. About a year ago, around about this time. So no recent activity. Why don't we do a fundamental analysis on dimension data again, just to show you some of the other information that's available. Obviously you can select your own specific criteria that you want to have a look at on a share. You might want to examine specific ratios, such as price to NAV quick ratios, or some statistical information, such as earnings per share, headlines earnings per share. Also, if you go back to the table and you right-click on it, you can get information much like a share handbook contains, such as director information, company information, information on the shares of the company, as well as the contribution by activity in a pie graph form. All the sense information is there, and then the results commentaries, as would have come out from time to time, is clearly available. So a wealth of fundamental information contained in ShareMagic, probably a lot more than most other programs contain. There is also a wealth of technical information contained in the software. So let's do one more example. Maybe we can take Remgo again and do a little bit of technical analysis on it. Maybe something simple like just adding a curve. So curve fit is just going to really give a trend on the system. Now you can also add things like leading or lagging indicators. Maybe you want to do a leading indicator like stochastics to see how the share has traded from its top and its bottom, or maybe some trend lines like Bollinger Band, so you can see how the share is trading in relation to its trading range. There's quite a lot of various comparison options that you have. You might even want to just do a straight trend line and see the general direction of the share. Maybe do a comparison of the share against another share, or against the index in which it resides. So if you have a look at this, there's quite a lot of things that you can play around with. What we're going to do now is just do that comparison against the all share index, or we can also do it against the industrial index. But let's make a selection. You can see how it's performing in relation to that index from a point in time. I might also want to add a curve fit, and you can see that the trend has moved away from a straight line. One gets a different picture, but let's clear that. That's a little bit messy. Let's do another quick fundamental analysis of RemGrow. Maybe we want to look at some fundamental information, or you can go back to the chart and change the chart to a bar or candlestick information. Perhaps you want things to look a little bit different. You might want to overlay the chart with another company or with the index. Let's go back for the general index. You might want to also put the all-share index. So let's put two indexes together, the general industrial index and the all-share index. And one gets an idea. Maybe it's a bit difficult to see, so let's change the company to a thicker font. And we might also want to add a curve line to it to get an idea of how it's doing. Let's clear all that up. There's a lot of other little indicators here which your consultant can explain to you about. Fibonacci retraction curves, they're all in the manual. And now we'll take you through just running through the demo to get an idea of how you can do automatic exploration every day and then select a company from that automatic exploration.